The transfer portal is, well, it's on fire still. They closed the door on me, jerks. I needed air circulation in here. So let's talk about the transfer portal. Leave it closed, that's fine. Caleb Williams, star quarterback from Oklahoma, enters the transfer portal last night, and woo, 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 everybody freaks out. Now Mario Williams, star wide receiver, he's in the transfer portal, and it's sort of Oprah, just tossing out trips to the transfer portal. You get one, everyone gets one. By the way, I didn't have our guys make this graphic, but this will probably be a fun graphic for us as we enter spring and then exit spring. Can you imagine when Texas and Oklahoma play each other next year, how different the rosters will look than they did in Dallas this time last year? There will probably be no greater example in an annual matchup of roster turnover over a 12-month period than the Red River Shootout. Because, I mean, those teams won't even recognize each other. You won't even recognize a majority of those teams when they face off next October, I believe it is, in Dallas. But look, we got to dive into an angle of this here that I've avoided it, but I got sucked into it this morning because I've listened to it for about the last time. And by it, I mean some of the popular / borderline ignorant refrains from a lot of folks who claim they're for the players, and they really aren't. I hate to expose some folks. They really aren't. They don't care all that much about the players. But I do want to point something out. And I think that there are changes coming on the transfer portal front. I don't have inside information from the NCAA, though I will be in their hometown this Friday and Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. I think some changes are coming because I have used nothing more than the common sense, limited supply, though it may be, that God has equipped me with. I know we can't continue like this. I think we all know that. When you combine the way portal and also NIL is working, certainly there are checks that are going to have to be inserted into this equation. Now, you know that I sat here, if you listen to every show, and a lot of you do, and I appreciate it, you know that I sat here last week, and I sat in Fort Lauderdale, same show though, and I looked you in the eye via a lens, and I said, maybe the best solution is for the adults in the room to just get out of the way and let some kids make some bad decisions and let them learn from it, and then maybe the market will correct itself. I still stand by that. However, I don't think that's how it's necessarily going to play out. So in lieu of that, let's entertain an alternate potential path that things could be taking. The first thing, saying too much, got to stop that. The first thing that I want to point out is the crowd that is screaming free market, free market, free market. Don't you care about the free market? What about the free market? I do want to state for the record that I am a borderline free market absolutist. I'm all about the free market. The free market allows us to do this show. I'm all about it. So do not mistake my tone that I'm about to take with being anti-free market or anti-anything. And if you turn the comment section political, I will just zap every one of you. I do have that moderator power. So let's not go down that road. I would question if half of you understand what you're saying when those words free market come out of your mouth, though. It's also very humorous to me. I get a kick out of this. It is very humorous to me that the same crowd who wants to talk free market principles to me all day, every day, all of a sudden want 47 different forms of regulation when it comes to the playoff. Pick a lane. That's all I'm asking you to do. Pick a lane. It's almost like they don't really care so much about any kind of principle to begin with. And I've got a theory, actually. It's a wild theory. I've still got to do some research on it, still got to do some interviews and whatnot. But I have got a theory that most people who claim they're looking out for the best interest of the players, especially in our industry, most of them are full of it. I think they probably couldn't care less about the players. I think most fans and media who are yelling and waving the flag for players' rights, especially when it comes to these two points of view, are really just looking for ways to either get more competition or they're looking for ways for their specific team to get a few more wins. Now, I understand that. And if you would just say that, if you just come out and say it that way, I'd disagree with you, but I'd respect you a lot more. I got folks screaming about players' rights and free markets, and it's like, shh, you just want to take your index finger to the lips. Shh, you don't care. Stop that. Stop pretending like you do. Look, something's going to change here. I don't know what. It's very intentionally broad right now. I don't know what's going to change. Something's got to change. And here's why I think that is. The NIL/portal conundrum, there's that word again, we quite literally are in the Wild West version of this. And I don't think that's going to be allowed to continue. Now, I'm going to go back to this refrain again. And I'm going to bat down, I'm going to try. We'll see how good I do at it. But I'm going to bat down a couple of things right now. Something's got to give with all of this. The portal / NIL, it won't continue down this road. It's like a chariot that's just on fire and it's rolling down the street. Someone's eventually going to put it out. There will be parameters. I fully believe we're approaching an era where some form of checks and balances and parameters are put in place, far more so than what NCAA headquarters has allowed so far. The NCAA walked in and they said, hey, NIL, it's a go. Transfer portal, it's a go. Bye. They left. They just left. It's like the uncle who comes over to your house if you have children and you got a 6-year-old kid here and the uncle comes over and pumps them full of Red Bull and candy canes and then about 9:15 he says, well, see you later. And you have to deal with a kid. It's like a pinball until about 2 a.m. The NCAA is the irresponsible uncle right now. They walked in, all we want to do is enough where you guys aren't making fun of us on Twitter anymore. So we'll do whatever it takes. And they did it, and then they said, see ya. And now you've got to enforce it. 24-year-old compliance director in Manhattan, Kansas, you've got to enforce it. Thanks for the leadership, guys. We appreciate it more than you could ever know. Again, I will be in Indianapolis this weekend. If anyone wants to talk, outside of a dinner resi I got Saturday night, I am down to talk. Something's going to change. So here's what I have heard. 2 refrains. The first one I get thrown my way, it feels like 8 days a week at this point, is what's wrong with a free market? Why don't you believe in a free market? And the second one that follows closely behind, it's very predictable at this point, is wait a second, buddy. You're telling me coaches can move around this sport freely, but players can't? I'm surprised this has gone on this long, to be frank with you, because there are a lot of smart people in the room, far smarter than me. How no one has shot this down like the wounded quail it is beyond me. But they haven't, so it's still fluttering about. Every single day, someone's saying coaches move freely, players should be able to move freely. Well, ignoring the obvious, should be an obvious point, that players and coaches aren't equal. They're not the same remotely. I'm going to ignore that for a second for you. We're just going to push that to the side, pretend like it never came out of my mouth. I am going to, for argument's sake and to speed the show along, let's just pretend like they are both equal entities and they both deserve the same thing. Okay, give them the same thing. Because the big lie out there, I guess it's a 4th big lie in college football. We've identified 3 of them this year. The 4th big lie is this, that coaches move around freely whenever they want, wherever they want. No, they don't. No, they don't. That's the lie that gets propagated either by people who are unintentionally ignorant, or worse, they are intentionally intellectually deceitful in their arguments. I lean towards the latter on some of these cats. Coaches aren't moving around freely at all. Notice what I didn't say there. I didn't say coaches aren't moving around. I said they aren't moving around freely. Every single coach that you watch on TV Saturday has, well, it's a little bit thicker than this, but they've got something. Starts with a C, ends with ontract. It's called a contract. And there's language all throughout that contract. It covers a myriad of different possibilities. And believe it or not, one of those possibilities is an exit strategy. If you want to go somewhere else, now, you choose to focus on the salary part. That coach is making so many millions of dollars a year. These poor victim kids over here making peanuts. I don't want to focus on that part of the argument tonight. That gets beaten to death. Let's move on from the salary for a second, because the players are making money now too. We're all advocating for a system where players make money. So we're not amateurs anymore. We're professionals. So the coaches can move. Players should be able to move. We want to treat this as an apples-to-apples comparison, I'm told. Players and coaches, they should live in the same world and operate under the same guidelines. Well, do you really want that? Because when coaches move, I know it's true that you see a headline that says, so-and-so is going from Texas Tech to Kansas. I don't agree with the life decision there, but as an example, so-and-so is going from Lubbock to Lawrence. That's the end of the story for you, isn't it? Well, that's not the end of the story for the legal types. The legal types are behind the curtain over there, pounding out the legal details. And those legal details include contracts, because there's a penalty when you don't fulfill the terms of your contract, including the terms of your deal from year to year. You can leave. Yeah, you can leave. There's a penalty to be paid. Is Caleb Williams paying a penalty right now for throwing up the deuces in Norman after 1 or 2 years? Or is anyone paying a penalty for that matter? They're not, are they? Well, here's the problem. That's not the free market. That's more like me walking up to you on the street, as I said on the extra pod this morning, stabbing you in the neck, taking your wallet and saying, mine now, free market, finders keepers, got it, what you gonna do, you know? He had it, I got it now, that's the free market. We can't do that. My buddy at Enron can't call me up and say, I got a hot tip for you, dude. We can't do that. That's called insider trading. It's not how the free market works. Still got a free market. Got some checks and balances in there. Right now, we're at the outset of how the transfer portal / NIL world is going to operate. So everyone's about the free market aspect with no checks and balances aspect. But here's the problem. Those coaches live in a different world. Contrary to what you've been told by the casuals out there, those coaches have been living in a different world. They live in a world where there is a financial penalty to be paid. If someone wants to leave Louisiana for Florida, there is a financial penalty that has to be paid. Now, it may be their future employer who pays it. I'm not going to sit here and argue semantics with you about who pays it. There is a penance paid if you do not fulfill the terms of your contract. What are we signing right now when we sign a national letter of intent? I'm being told that really all we're signing is ourselves to that university for 1 year. Well, what happens when someone comes along and says, wait a second, it used to be that you told me you can't force those kids to be here 4 years. You can't make them pay a penalty when they leave. They're just amateurs. They don't even make money. That argument's out the window. They do make money now. They will make a lot more of it. We're probably headed towards a system where these guys are paid salaries. In fact, it will probably be a little neater and cleaner when we get there. But when we're there, you're almost going to catch yourself. Because when I propose things, if I'm the college football commissioner, like you are mandatory 2 years or 3 years in, if you sign that NIL and the only way I'm letting you out is if your head coach leaves, you're going to push back and you're going to say, you can't do that to student athletes. They're not students anymore. You saw to that, by the way, not me. You saw to that. They're not students anymore. They're professionals. They're just like the coaches over there. You're going to sign here, and you're going to perform on my football field wearing my logo on your helmet. And you're going to perform on the stage that our conference's television rights deal allows you to perform on. There's a ton of investment on our end. So sure enough, you're going to help us out. We are going to benefit from you, but you're benefiting big time from us too. And so there's going to be a little exchange here. There's going to be some give and take on both sides. You want to come to the University of Washington and play? That's fine. You're not going to come in here and use us for 1 year and then say bye. You could do that if you're a student, because we were using you, we're taking advantage of you as a student. But now you're just an athlete. You're not a student athlete. You're just an athlete. Again, the world you wanted, not the world any of us wanted, the world you wanted. What happens then? A little bit of pushback? Because that's actually how free markets do work. So is there a little bit of pushback then? I think there's a lot of pushback from folks that did not think some of those, am I going to say it? Yeah. Some of those ham-fisted arguments, didn't think them all the way through. You got to think them through to the logical conclusion, because see, the way this is going to move is a lot of these conference commissioners are meeting this week. That's what happens every year with the conference championship, and especially the national championship week. There are a lot of folks who are going to be waiting to see if there's some news about an expanded college football playoff that comes out of those meetings. I'm waiting to see if there is word that there is going to be new legislation on the transfer portal and NIL front. Because I can promise you, even for those out there who want the playoff expanded, at least the administrative types, they understand that this is a far more pressing issue. They can afford to take that expanded playoff talk to 25 or 26. You better take care of this right now. And I think enough of them realize that. They don't need me warning them. Enough of them realize that. But I just want to caution you, for everyone out there yelling about players' rights and they should be treated like the coaches in free markets, as usual with the arguments of a casual, I don't think you're going to enjoy the results nearly as much as you think you're going to. But again, press on. I'm just one voice over here.